Oh my gosh, Ed Smart. You really sure it works? My northernmost rice farmer.
I'm second.
He grows barges of rice. He hasn't grown rice in several years. He doesn't grow for people, he grows for barges. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we're going to start, and I'm going to do things different than I've done before, particularly for people that have heard this talk before. It'll have some overlap, but I'm going to take you on a different direction. I'm going to take you on a mental and physical and spiritual journey a little bit. And I'm sort of worrying about how to start this thing, but I guess that's the best way to describe it. I'm going to talk about the big picture for rice, and I'm going to talk about the near-term outlook, and we're going to have a little help from California. We got a guy back here that can actually stand up and talk because he grows rice in California, and his name's Dave Lemoyne. I just love these things because you get to meet all kinds of people you've never met before. We've got some books back there with my lovely wife, Jan. Raise her hand. She hates to raise her hand. And we've got 2 for 1 until the books run out because I don't want to take them back. So if you buy 2, you get 2 for $20, okay? My name is Milo Hamilton, and I'm so glad to be here. I'd love to be at the gin show. I don't know anything about cotton. If there's anyone here for cotton, they have to leave because I'm a rice guy, not a cotton guy. And I'm glad you're here. And a few days ago, you would have slept in a ditch with your truck because of the snow and the ice and the rain. We made it down to Cleveland. We couldn't go any further down. The rice market's in a ditch right now. There's no doubt about it. But I like things that are in a ditch because they're a buy, they're not a sell. And I want you to stop thinking about everybody that said the market's bearish, which it is, and start thinking about what I'm going to talk about. Because you need to start with the long term, not the short term. That's why I approach things differently. I bought $100 million worth of rice from Uncle Ben's for 18 years with 11 buyers and from 31 sales offices for 18 years. It's a long time. And then 15 years ago, I started this business. Who am I? I gave the keynote address in Bangkok in October for the 4-year rice conference, and I was just invited to go to Jakarta from Singapore to give a talk on rice at a new grain thing that's starting up. But I'm going to go and do other things. I'm going to celebrate my birthday with my wife, so I just said no. My ego said yes, but my heart said no. And when I was in Bangkok, I gave a talk to all the experts in the world. If you have someone advising you, you have to ask them, did you go to Bangkok? Are you invited to Jakarta? Huh? You know? Let me know, because that's who I am. I'm world class, and I'm one of the very best. And it ain't bragging if it's true. So listen up. And so this big guy from Benin gets up, looks like a tackle for the Longhorn team. I'm sorry, Longhorn team. We have some from Mississippi State. You humiliated us. You humiliated us. Anyway, he said, I got one question. What are you going to do for farmers? I said, first of all, he was very big, very elegantly dressed in a red robe. I said, I'm going to bring the farmer closer to the market. That's what gets me up in the morning. Not all the grain traders that take my service so much as getting the farmer closer to the market. And the market is not in Arkansas and Louisiana. It's global. Has to do with water, has to do with navigation, has to do with everything I'm going to tell you. I'm going to move very quickly through this thing. And if you want to follow up later, you can with me. I'm going to show you stuff that people haven't seen before. I'm going to tell you stuff that I didn't even show when I was in Bangkok. It's all happened since then. One thing I do very well is learn. I learn about as fast as anybody I know. And if you can't learn fast, you're in trouble. The Chinese are very wise and very foolish, like all of us. I'm going to talk most about their foolishness. But here is something that's very wise, this statement. Those who do not look up at the far away will have trouble in the nearby. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Those who do not look up at the far away will have trouble in the nearby. I'm going to do a mental exercise that I did to a bunch of students out in Chico. I want you to take out a piece of paper on your mind, do the following. Draw 2 dots. Take out a piece of paper or think of it in your mind, 2 dots. Okay? Okay. I want you to connect those dots. You connect them in the mind or however you want to do it. I see most people don't have pens and paper. That's fine. Now, that is your lifeline, like they say on Facebook. The first dot is your birth. The last dot is your death. What I want you to do is to look at that piece of paper and ask yourself where you make the crosshatch on that line. When you're done, I'll proceed. So just think about that. I want to know where you are in your lifeline right now, each of you. Have you done that? Is anybody that thinks that's too complicated? Okay. The answer to that question is to put it at the crosshatch where you were born. Did anybody do that in their mind or on a piece of paper? A gal this morning did it. Out of 200 or 300 people, usually one person does it. Why would you put it there? Because when you think about what you know and what you have to learn, you're right at the beginning of your life. That's what learners do. If you don't learn, you're going to be in trouble as we move down through this thing. It's moving at the rate of... We're going to add 2 billion people onto smartphones. They'll all be rice farmers out in Asia. Are we moving? Can you hear me in the back? Up? Up? Thank you. That's down. Okay. My wife says I'm okay. That's a start if your wife says you're okay. Global edge versus Asian industries. We're going to outline outside factors, crude oil and US dollar, demand and supply for rice, strategies to stay in the rice business. What are you going to do in the ditch? The rice ditch. First grade. Okay, that's our company. India and China are rice superpowers, no doubt about it. They're going to drive you broke, but they're going to make you money. My friend in the back, Logan's going to talk a little bit. He was there in China 4 times in the last year with the rice guys. Global USA, global superpower without parallel. Both should benefit U.S. rice producers evenly. The kinds of people that are signing up for my service now, one guy just got in $300 million. I'm going to go up and see another guy's $19 billion fund. There's a whole bunch of people out there in the periphery that are looking at your business and don't look at you in a ditch. I'm going to talk a little bit about water. I'll move very quickly. I might jump some slides here because I want to get to the questions if you have any. Collectively, all of the American rivers are 14,650 miles long. China and Germany have 2,000 miles. France has about 1,000 miles. The entire Arab world has 120 miles. Arab world will never be able to feed itself, okay? Neither will these other areas of the world be able to feed themselves. Why? Because they don't have the water and it's not navigable. Okay? India, which is burying the world with cheap rice, has 0 miles of navigable river. That's a license for grinding poverty, and I'm not, it's just what, it's the luck of the draw. It's not about water, it's not about water per capita, which I'm going to talk about, it's also about can you move stuff on the water. Our Indian navigation system has 3,000 miles of navigable waterways. That's 50% more than all of China. The Columbia North, the Mississippi River, we are blessed by the Creator with the greatest supply of everything we need to be a superpower. Maybe by accident, if you don't believe, I believe God gave it to us, but whatever it is, it happens, and we got it. Don't go anywhere else. Just stay put in the U.S., okay? So that's what I'm telling people. The situation is such that we have a collapse in the price of rice. It had nothing to do with the fundamentals, demand and supply. It has to do with the dollar. One of the reasons the dollar is so strong is as we tear apart this world, everybody begins to realize we are a power, a superpower beyond anything the world has ever seen before. And they want to come in and buy those dollars. And that's what's hurt our market because it's denominated in dollars. Has nothing to do with the price of rice. Has everything to do with outside logistics, okay, so to speak. Yeah. Accidental superpower. We will soon be self-sufficient in energy. I believe Rick Brock talked about that. He's an old friend. 70% of the world's navigable rivers. 40% of the world's fresh water through the Great Lakes. Big and expensive Navy, $200 billion a year. It's that Navy that allows free trade in the world because they'll go in and get all the pirates and shoot them out of the water. That may not continue. Moving towards energy independence. So we got energy independence, water independence, all the navigable rivers, and we don't need anybody. And we're cheaper labor in Mexico by 30% than China right now. I'm not touting the U.S. I'm about to show you why we're so terribly powerful. Why do you think someone has 300 million and is looking at Delta to buy land, to buy this place? That gap is going to close. I don't care what Saudi Arabia does to the oil price. It's going to close, and when that happens, they have a problem. We don't have a problem. growing populations, energy importers. China and India together represent India. I'm going to move very fast. I hope to be done with this in about 5 minutes. Water scarcity, no navigable rivers. They're worse off than China. I'm not going to go into India. I'm going to go into China, but you can imagine it being worse. As a friend of mine said, I've never ceased to be impressed with people that want to be impressed by India. They have huge problems. That's what's keeping the price down is India. They can't defend their food and energy trade. We can. We're surplus, and we're going to soon be surplus in energy. We're already selling light crude. Asia uses the water, twice the water and labor of any other grain. So why is it so cheap? Their budgets keep it down. The treasuries keep it down, not the market. Big toxicity issues in China. Has anyone here ever met a farmer that wouldn't eat the stuff he grows? They have millions in China. Can you hear me in the back? That will not eat what they grow. People are committing suicide over there because they don't want to eat the food. I know a fellow that's been in Mandarin, fluent in Mandarin. He's a Spaniard. He's seen the guy commit suicide by setting himself on fire in a big city out in the central area. The size of the Indian farms are declining, not increasing. That is a recipe for thinner populations. They're declining, not increasing. At least China is trying to increase, and the pollution is the worst in the world. Rice is a very big deal. Feeds 3 billion people. 2 billion of those are going to get smartphones in the next 6 years. Hello? One farm feeds 20 people. Our farms feed 150. They're not any stupider than you are. They just don't have the resources. Has nothing to do with the Indian farmer. Every farmer in the world is excellent. They just don't have the facility and the money. China expends 70% of its water on rice irrigation. Rice uses twice the water and twice the labor of any other row crops. Now the plot thickens. Water is just one reason why China will import more grains. Stress, 100 cubic meters, 150 cubic meters for China. Water table drop 30 meters. This makes Texas and Arkansas and California look really good, David. 50% of its waters are running dry. Only 50% of the urban water is fit to drink. California's got a warming problem. Texas has a warming problem. India and China have a swarming problem. That's different than a warming problem. Too many people going after the same resource. This is the price in 2008 when all the journalists said it's gone too high. It's moving up here. That's where it is now. The price of medium grain rice, they're all moving up. They're a little sort of the same because the oil price is going down. They're going to see if they can keep the production up. If they don't run that price up with the labor going up and the water problems, they're not going to grow the rice. That is twice the price on the exchange today in China for rice. The reason that the grain production is going up 200 million metric tons is very simple. They've let their shadow and regular debt skyrocket. You think we got a problem in this country? They got a huge problem there. Getting back to it, the reason why the grains have gone up and have defied Mother Nature is because of debt. When Father Debt begins to overtake, then Mother Nature and Father Debt will work together, and you're going to see a change in the grain production in China. It could happen at any time. China's been stable since the time of Mao, more or less. For 3,500 years, they've had civil wars. We have one in this country. They've had civil wars year after year. And we have a China that is artificially, where would you like to be? Would you rather bet on China with your $300 million in North Carolina, or would you rather bet on this country for the future of where to put your money? Okay, very quickly, world rice stocks going down. This is the only grain where stocks are destocking, not increasing, okay? India's in a food hole. Their stocks are down 20% already. They're feeding twice the number of people. They now have a program to feed 800 million people. We feed 46 million people with our food grains. They're feeding 800 million people, and their demand is outstripping the trend in their supply. Here's the secret ingredient of why I'm bullish on rice. Maybe not next week. Maybe the market doesn't get out of a ditch with a prime mover next week. But it's going to happen soon because the stocks to trade ratio is going down. It's going up for corn. That's bearish. It's going down for rice. It's now at the lowest level since 1970. You don't see anybody talking about it because in the Far East, the point is to tell everybody you got plenty of food because it's so dangerous to have not enough food. We got a problem that's not relieving itself. These are the trends I watch, stocks to trade. Why is that? Because if someone has a problem, there's nothing to buy. Then the price doubles or triples. current fundamentals. Okay, very simply put, we're looking at light years here, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because I want to get into Logan and then close it up. We think this year is very much like this year, be about 1290. It's not there right now. Under normal conditions, it'd be there. Like year is like 2011, so it goes 2012, 2011. I can send you some stuff later if you're interested. That would be about 1440 for the next crop year. The problem is, and we've got exports up 16%, down in medium grain. This is very unusual. Normally by this time of year the market's moving up, and everybody says, Milo, why is it not moving up? It's because of the dollar and crude oil. This is very unusual to have the sales going up and the price going down, and that is because we're in a ditch. It has to do with the dollar and oil. Forget about rice. Could you come up and speak for a minute, Logan? This is Logan Wilson, my assistant out in California. I've got to get things straight.
Thank you, Milo. My name is Logan Wilson, and do run Milo's office out in California, where I'm sure you guys have all been hearing rumors about the drought out there, which I can confirm for you that they are very true and very serious. Last year's crop was 480 to 500,000 acres of medium grain. It got reduced this year to about 415,000, and right now we are in the thick of our water rights discussions and finding out how much allocation of the water will be given to agriculture or environmental purposes, or simply just to the municipalities and for people. And so we're expecting right now from our surveys to see another 5 to 10% reduction in the medium grain crop in California next year, simply due to water, but also there'll be water transfers and water sales. And also we saw a substantial increase in medium grain acres this year in the South, where you guys understood the opportunity to take advantage of the higher price of the medium grain market, and close to 315,000 acres were planted here in the South. And I understand right now those decisions are being made right now to go to medium grain or long grain for some producers out there trying to make the best call in the market. But right now the medium grain market has been largely depressed, similar to what you're seeing in the long grain markets because of the dollar. We don't know what our water situation is looking like, but we're having some very, very serious port issues taking place. We export 50% of our medium grain crop through containers, and right now all the West Coast ports have been shut down because of a strike with the union there. And so we simply, even if we can agree on a price with an export customer, we simply can't ship the product. And it's not just rice, it's almonds, it's walnuts, it's textiles, it's the apple guys, whatever it might be. There's just been a huge shutdown there. So there's been very little rice being transacted and moved out of the California market, and that's been depressing for our state of economy there as well. So there are some things that are taking place. There's some demand returning from Puerto Rico. Turkey, oftentimes comes in as a very large discount buyer, and they don't discriminate if it's going to be Jupiter rice or Calrose rice. Their biggest decision factor is the price. But right now, what you receive on the farm, because of the value of the currency, you might not see a price increase for what you actually receive, but these export buyers are paying a lot more because the value of the dollar has changed and shifted so much. It just makes it a little more difficult to get those sales and those exports in place and that business done. Also, Taiwan is considering Jupiter. I know that there's been a few shipments and cargoes that have made it over there, and their taste preferences are changing, but largely that's instigated because of the substantial price differential we're seeing from Jupiter to Calrose. And so those decisions continue to be important when you have to look at what your planning option is going to be and what your premium might be from your medium grain to your long grain decisions, how that plays out. So right now, this is a water chart here that might be a little bit unclear, but the pink line, the pink line is where we currently stand. We had a really big storm week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and so we're kind of getting close to average. But the problem is we have a few really large watersheds in California, in the Sierra Nevadas, and the coastal range that supply our water for the duration of the summer. Right now, we have almost no snow in the mountains. And so any of you big skiers who have enjoyed going to Tahoe in years in the past, there's almost no snow there right now. Ski resorts are struggling, and we don't have a water supply for the summer right now. And that's why, again, the problems that we're seeing with the delayed decisions in water. So again, there's a current state. So I'll let Milo come back and finish talking about that, but again, the medium grain market is in flux right now.
you're in the crude oil business, you got a problem. You got a big problem. That's what it is. The Brent and West Texas Intermediate have crashed. The dollar's gone up. It's a really simple relationship. Our market has gone down. I showed you earlier about the dollar. We're down here. This is a couple of weeks ago. We're down here. We got down to a $10 low. At the Outlook meeting, I told farmers and bankers we're going to $10, and that's exactly where we went. Last year, we told them it's going to 11. That's exactly where it went. So we don't pull any punches with our customers. We tell them you got a problem with the price, short term. Where does it go from here? Well, you got two places to go. You can go down the paddy price, which has gone up to about $9, which is about where Delta got bid recently, so we're back down to Indian prices. Or you can go up to Chinese prices. China imports rice. We don't know how much, but it's a lot. India exports rice. I've already told you their stocks are going down. They will be retreating. So if you've got a cheap exporter that's taking a smaller part in the world market, and you've got a high-priced importer, that's good news. So what's going to happen is slowly, over time, this market has to turn up and go higher, because Thailand doesn't matter. I've been out there. I spent 3 days with my friends in Thailand. It doesn't matter. It's not the problem, but all the journalists say it's the problem. The problem is they're all going to jail because the rice doesn't exist. So very short, we make our money by selling subscriptions, and we can give you a subscription to the newsletter if you're interested, and a signed copy of the book, and our annual report if you wish to. At this point, I would like to see if there are any questions. Does anybody have any questions from this presentation? Yes, sir.
Are you tying the correlation to the bottom of the market with crude oil and the dollar?
No. We're ground down to a real value price, and it really doesn't matter now what the dollar does. It's similar to the 2000, 2001, because we've taken all the fluff and excess out of the market. So now it will be based on rice fundamentals. And what I'm trying to tell you is, these guys have been over there 4 times in the last year. They shipped half a thousand tons into China through a third party. They are very interested in our market. They are laying down, they now buy 6 million tons at least around the world. You don't hear that talked about. And India had been exporting 11 million tons. They're going to go way down because, oh, by the way, the El Nino's coming back, which is going to even make it more difficult on them. So what you have is a receding India and an advancing China. So you've got $9 rice receding and $21 rice advancing. Is that clear? Does anybody have any question? That means the market's got to go up, not down. How it evolves is partly related to the acreage. Our survey we did a week ago suggests that acreage is flat to down. That's good news. If acreage is up, it's going to postpone the bottom a little bit. But there's reasons for rice acreage to leak over into soybeans, particularly if it remains wet and cold here. Did I answer your question? This is not an Arkansas market. This is a global market. This is a market, the price is being set out of India and China, not the U.S. If someone says it's a local market, they're deceiving you. It's not set here in the States. Yes, sir?
Talk about China's debt being a problem, and you talked about the gap closing to energy producers, and then another very bullish factor would be Puerto Rico. But what about the energy producers' high debt, high leverage, and yields right now, and even the Puerto Rican municipals? How's that going to affect?
Well, as far, I'm not quite sure what your point is. He asked, what does debt do to buyers or sellers?
Well, you said that the gap's going to close on the crude oil, which is going to be...
Yes, we will move towards energy independence in the next 5 years. We're not there yet. We've been postponed by the shenanigans out of Saudi Arabia, but eventually it has to happen, that we become energy independent. As far as debt concerned, my point was that China is growing more stuff through debt, not through technological breakthroughs. And they pushed the price up and they've incurred more debt. If they start to stumble, then we see a whole change in world food trade. China has 3,500 years of civil war. The last 50 or 60 have been fairly tranquil compared to that. And if China starts running into problems, then the coastal provinces will start buying food in other areas. They're very close to approving the buying of U.S. and Western Hemisphere rice. It's the only area they haven't approved yet. And they put everyone else through the same ringer. And Logan and Stu are there watching it every day. And when it happens, the Wall Street Journal will run this market at $2 as all the specs get out. Specs covered 200 contracts last week, and the market went way up, like 90 cents. And they have 4,000 contracts to cover. So I don't know if I answered your question, but basically, crude oil does not affect demand in the Far East because all of these markets are so heavily subsidized, particularly India. They probably subsidize about a $30, $40 crude oil price, which is where we kind of got down to. So what it's going to do is everybody on a motor scooter is going to go see his mom is going to buy an extra muffin. And what it's going to do is it's going to stimulate food demand in the Far East. We are not a biodiesel product. Rice is a food product. And that makes it very different than corn and beans, which I'm bearish on. And they will buy more food to feed themselves. And the energy market has not been the problem, it's been the dollar market. If you look at beans, they're very close to energy because of the biofuels, and corn too. Rice has no biofuels component. I know it's hard to believe that this market would go up. The short term will depend on what acreage does. That's why we're watching it like a hawk. If the acreage goes up 10%, it's going to be postponed for 2 to 4 months. If the acreage starts to go down, then it could happen earlier rather than later. Did you know that we were denied crop insurance for rice this Monday? You can't get crop insurance on rice, revenue crop insurance?
Nobody in the November futures contract, I'm not buying.
Absolutely, it dried up.
Different question along different track. How big a shift do you see in the delta to medium grain from long grain?
There's a contract in Louisiana for $20 a barrel. It's come out. People are very disappointed, so it's bottom feeding type stuff. I don't know, but I know a lot of farmers up in the upper delta that can grow medium grain for the same cost as long grain, and they'll probably move into it. A year ago, I was telling people to grow all the medium grain you can. I only would do it with a contract that makes sense to you now. I wouldn't go out and grow medium grain.
Can you translate $20 a barrel to $1.40?
Oh,
5.5, 5.55.
thanks. He speaks barrelish. I apologize for the rice industry. I got about 20 different ways of measuring the market. That's what I like about California, just one measurement, one way of talking about it. So the long and short of it is that I would not grow medium grain unless you got a contract. If you got a contract, you can grow medium grain. But the fact that we don't get crop insurance, which came home big this week out in DC, people are very aware, that's not going to increase rice acreage, in my judgment. Will it decrease it? I don't know. You guys decide. But watching this thing like a hawk, I would say in 30 days we'll have a much better idea about what acreage is going to do. If the acreage stays the same or goes down, we may have just seen the low for a year. Quote me on that. Because $10 rice is a Thai price, and that market's not going to go down. Vietnam's got a little problem right now. But the people that made the problem are going to jail, so they won't tell you what the stocks are, because every time they lower the stocks figure, people go to jail because they didn't have the rights. In Thailand. I spent 2 days with the largest exporter there. He explained the gory details. They came in and they just scammed him. Those guys deserve to go to jail. It's horrible what they did. But the stocks are not nearly as high. It's more like about 12, 10, or 11, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it's going away. They just lost 3 million with the crop. If that crop doesn't recover by April, we're going to see the Thai crop go down 3 million tons. 3 million tons here, lack of rice there, and it's over with.
Are you saying that the Thai government in their pricing scheme bought rice that didn't exist?
No, people said there's rice that didn't exist to get 20% on the trade, and they bought people off. It's $20 billion that went somewhere into someone's wallet, like toxins out of the country. He's not even in the country. His sister ran the thing for a while. And you'll never get the true figures when the true figures require people to go to jail. I heard it from the guy that I spent a month there. I spent 2 weeks there in Thailand in November and October, and I talked to the main players. Forget about Thailand. It's all bogus. Are there any other questions? The law will be set with acreage here. My hunch is it's been set, and that acreage is not going to be as high. Yes?
exports to the Middle East, does that have much impact?
Short term, the Iraqis can mess our minds up, but the Gulf Coast is where it happens. And right now the price is weak. We want to see that recover. I don't know when the next Iraqi tender is going to be. Does anyone here know? Yeah, someone asked me. I'll be checking that out when I get back. I've had 2 days in the office in the month of February. 2 days in the office. Does anyone know what this month is? It's called Money Month. Do you know what that means? That means every 823 years there's a February like this one. We had one 823 years ago. We won't have another one for 823 years. You know why? This month has 4 Mondays, 4 Tuesdays, 4 Wednesdays, 4 Thursdays, 4 Fridays, 4 Saturdays, 4 Sundays. It was an oil trader that sent me that this week. And right now there's no money because of the oil price down. So I'm hoping it'll come back. I'm going to go see a guy that made $60 million last year putting little caps on fracking wells up in Weatherford, Texas. If this is the low in energy prices, then there'll be some money for the energy business. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting. This is not related to anything, but Iraq is very important to us. But if we do not grow any more rice, then we've got a decent chance of getting the stocks to go down. It's the farmers that are looking at the reference price versus alternatives right now. Beans kind of holding above 10. If the acreage stays the same or goes down, we saw the low. If it goes up 10%, we got a low this summer. Did I make my point clear? I don't know what's going to happen. But my hunch is, from talking to people, is anyone here going to increase rice acreage? Smart man.
Well, I didn't know I was well.
It's a part of your thing, yeah. It's a part of your thing. What about very few people in our, we've got people all over the South that take our service. Very few people talk about an increase, most talk about a decrease. We weight it down, it's down about 2 to 5%, which is not off base from the USDA. We think the same right now. Could get worse, depending, or better. The more acreage goes down for rice, the better off things are for you guys and gals. Does this make sense, what I'm saying? Does it make sense what I'm talking about? Is it going to be an Indian price? You got a business. You're going to be growing something. You and your banker are going to grow beans or sesame seeds or edamame or something else. If we go to a China price, we're going to have 3 times as many people here next year, and they're not going to be as gloomy as they are right now. The cure for lower prices is lower prices. Got some very smart people that are moving into the rice business. They see it, they think it, they breathe it. The whole thing in Asia is, Asia doesn't operate like normal markets. It's all full of spin and that kind of thing. And I gave the talk right after the Chinese guy. This is what I did. I took him in for coffee, a Starbucks coffee before we talked. I spent an hour with him and I said, this is what I believe. And I thought of all this stuff for him. I said, what do you think? He said, oh, I agree. Totally the same. He goes and he stands up in front of people. He says the opposite of what he believes in front of everybody. That's the way Asia operates. They'll tell you one thing here, but when they get out in front of people in the news media, they'll say the opposite. They're not credible. You've got to do your own research, know your own people. I've got friends all over the world. By buying $100 million worth of rice, by being part of the largest retail buying program, by having 15 years, grain traders, most of the river takes my service. We're all friends. As my friend in Vietnam said, we friends. Yeah. So I'm all through the marketing chain with our service, and it's pretty clear to me that we're at major primary lows in rice for a long time. So the misery you feel, enjoy it. This won't last forever. Does that make sense? I don't know, I'm trying to put words around my thinking, what I'm hearing. It's hard to not be gloomy when you're gloomy, right? Any other questions? If you're thinking about getting into rice, get into rice. But no, there's no insurance, which will probably not increase rice acreage. And if you get into rice, don't get out of rice. Don't say the price is here and it'll stay there, because Milo said it'll stay there for the next 12 months, because I didn't say that. And you can take that theoretical payment and grow something else. You've got to be in rice to grow rice. Does that make sense? You can't grow something. If you want to grow something else, don't get into rice. Because if you grow something else and you can't hedge it because of our market being so liquid, you could lose it. So you get the worst of all possible worlds. The rice price goes up when it's supposed to go up. don't know what's going on in the rice market. They really don't. Not bragging, but I do. I've called the lows. Now I'm telling you within 12 months, it ain't gonna be here, it's gonna be higher. I don't know exactly how to work itself out. $10 rice is double dirt cheap in the world market right now. That's the Indian price. And India's going away. Any other questions? Sorry I got global on. Yeah, go, David.
Milo, when we hear a lot about China and the younger generation not wanting to stay on the farm, and the question is who's going to farm their rice, just in a long-term outlook, when does that start to take effect in the world market on their production?
As long as they keep jacking the price up, they'll get the rice grown. But as they increase the price, there's more money to be made out of Burma, Thailand, Pakistan, and they'll import more rice. So as the price goes up and they import more rice, the world trade, which I already told you, stocks to trade ratios going in will make it more difficult for the price to stay where it's at. It's a mental thing in people's heads, comes out in the newspapers. The Chinese have to keep raising the price because their labor costs are going up and their water costs, they haven't even begun to charge for them. The real problem here is India, not China. India's acreage is going down. That's killer. For that country to have their acreage going down, people are going to get thinner in India because they can't afford it. Within 5 years, I was in Thailand talking to the largest food company in Thailand. The guy that does India says they will be importing food. They will be importing grains. They're not going to be exported in 5 years. So as China becomes more of an importer, maybe 10 million tons within 5 years, and India starts being an importer, what happens? Half the world's population needs food and doesn't have it. So if China continues to maintain production, it's going to have to maintain higher and higher prices. China's between a rock and a hard place. If they let the price go down, then they don't grow the rice. The only reason India is cheap is because their budget is paying for it. They don't pay for fuel, fertilizer, and these things. They give everything away. Yes?
What about their quality?
10 to 30% of their rice on toxic land. I gave the presentation to the big co-op in California, and I looked at the manager there, the guy in charge, and I said, what do you think of this presentation? He said, we just came from Hunan. They're saying they can't grow rice. That's the largest single rice province in China. Why would they say that? Maybe they're trying to figure out what to do. There are people in China that will not eat what they grow, and there are people in the cities that actually set themselves on fire as protest against the fact their family has to eat food they're not going to live very long on. If you eat rice with heavy cadmium, your kidneys fail. They don't have the freedom to eat food. If you don't want to buy U.S. rice, you buy it from Thailand. If you don't want to buy U.S. chilies, you can buy them from Chile. That's not true in China. You get stuck with what you are and where you're at. They don't have freedom to eat. Do you understand the phrase freedom to eat? Does that make sense? It's horrible. I'm not proud of any of this. It's just a fact that they aren't talking about. It's on the internet. They don't put it in the newspapers. It's happening. You can only do that for so long. You can only keep people under that for so long. And then finally, something explodes. I don't relish any, the Chinese are very wise. Those who do not look at the far away will have trouble in the nearby. When you grow your rice, know that the water is your life. These are Chinese sayings. They're very wise and ancient. They invented rice. They're very wise and they're also very foolish, just like we are. Wise and foolish. Sophomores. I'm not putting down India or China. I don't relish any of the things I'm saying. I have Indian customers. The largest Indian trader in the world takes my service, and none of this stuff do I. I like people. I don't like misery. You're in the right place. Don't leave. Don't go to China and start growing rice. Don't go to India and start growing rice. Just sit there and wait. It's going to happen to you. And you'll be able to sell it because there'll be more buyers. Yes, sir.
Will there ever be a day that the board becomes a legitimate hedge?
I'm so glad you asked that question. On Monday, we had a meeting concerning shipping certificates. There's differences of opinion, but we approved that. Now, shipping certificates is the first step to relooking at the contract. It's going to probably take about 2 to 3 years, but I see the contract changing. I see the rice contract becoming more like the grain contracts. There is, when I set this thing in motion, I put everything in Arkansas at the time, because that's where the production was. 1% went down the river. Now 22%. More rice goes down the river as a percentage in rice than corn goes export in corn, because most of it's ethanol. If we can get the market for rice futures similar to the other grains with all the characteristics, we've got a decent chance of getting back the crop insurance. But we've got to go through change. A lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people don't agree with me. Hey, it's a democracy. What will happen is people will vote and they'll decide. But on Monday, 12-1, the executive committee of the U.S. Rice Federation agreed to the change. That's just fact. Whatever my position is, it seems to have been the will of the committee that they want to change. When those farmers came out of the first meeting where the crop insurance thing failed, they were not in a good mood. I would not be in a good mood if I wanted crop insurance and the market was small. Did I answer your question? I didn't really answer because I don't know where we go from here. But I'm telling you, there are a lot of people that are very upset that we don't have crop insurance. Couldn't trade 25 contracts a day for 8 days. Even oats could do it, but not rice. It's too nearby. Need to look at that contract and see if what that gentleman said, we can tweak it in some way. I don't have all the answers. Did I answer your question at all? Or not?
I work with farmers on marketing crops.
Please.
We can't hedge our rice risk
Yeah.
at all. And I want to know the day that we
I don't have a day.
proper use of options.
The first thing is you stop bitching about it and start doing something. We did some things Monday. And then maybe we can serve your needs, sir. It isn't my contract, it's the industry's contract. I just think we need to look at everything in the thing. And all the grains trade on the river, except for rice. Rice doesn't trade on the river. It trades interior to the river because of the nature of the way it was shifted over. Times have changed. And I hear your problem. I don't have this, it's not my contract, it's the industry's contract. But the more people say those things, the more possibility there is for change. That's all I'm saying. Go to work, talk to your people, whoever it is, talk to people and say, we want to use the contract if we can. That would be what you're saying, keep saying it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Keep saying it, keep saying it. And they think the market's broken, and I think it is. Will it be fixed? I don't know. I don't know. I believe at the next meeting everybody will be there. The last one, not everybody was there. 12-1 says there's a problem. Did I answer that part of the question? Okay. Any other questions? Any brokers out here? Anybody that uses futures? Anybody that wants to complain about my contract? No, I'm just kidding. It's not my contract. I can't. I don't know what the industry wants. It's up to the industry to decide. Some more questions? Aaron, you got a question? No. Jeff, got a question? Dave, welcome to the South. I'll tell you, the people who want to buy your land, your rice land. The price of land may be going down, but there are people that want to buy your rice land, but I'm not sure you should sell it, but what the hell. There are people coming in, they're very big, very much interested in what I'm talking about. Strategic players that think this stuff. That's how they made their billions. We just tend to be in our cubbyhole and rice, little white grains. Maybe someday Ed will grow rice again. He came to my conferences, my meetings. That's a start. Hope you'll be doing barges soon, Ed.
Thank you.
As we go towards China price, you'll call up and say, I'm back doing growing barges up in Tennessee or wherever it's Kentucky. Any other questions? You've been very kind to listen. This isn't what other people say, but that's why people pay me, because I think differently. But I've been right enough. I said for 5 years that China's going to be buying rice. Yeah, right. What's your next one, Milo? Guess what they're doing? They're buying rice. So we got some more books. We have any left?
We have some, yeah.
2 for 1 sale, $20. Thank you. Hope I didn't confuse you too much for you. That's good.